Good morning again, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we're going to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do the usual disclaimers, now this next new article is in response from what happened back a few days ago, back on January the 5th, which this is a perfect piggyback off of the last video we just did, which is still downloading. I don't know why it's taking so damn long. Seriously, YouTube. Fucking seriously. Anyways, sorry about that. I'm just slightly annoyed. I don't like when my routine gets interrupted at all. Yeah, I become a little brat when it comes to that. So, anyways, what we're about to cover before we get into the disclaimers, folks, is another piece in regards to more of the autism advocacy and some of my comrades out there. It's a response to what we've seen so far. So we're going to go ahead and read over it, of course. It's from the Daily Kos, and I am going to go ahead and make sure that the link to this article is going to be in the description box. This seems to be going over a little bit more what I was talking about in the last video. I chose it to piggyback because, remember, shock treatment is just one of the things places like the JRC do. They also starve people. They call it the Food Contingency Program. We've been over it before, where if we don't act like a performing seal, perfectly fake neurotypicality for hours on fucking end, which, by the way, when you're an autistic child is damn near fucking impossible, then they have the bizarre behavioral rehearsal lessons where they will go out and deliberately trigger the behaviors that they can get shocked for and then shock them for it. Who knows what adversives they're going to put in the place of the GED should this ban go on, because make no mistake, folks. If they think they can get away with going back to what they did in the 1980s when the shock device goes, you better fucking believe they're going to do so. Remember, those are the kind of treatments that ended up with 6 kids fucking dead. So, yeah, that. They also have the sleep deprivation. And yeah, folks, the only answer is close the place down, close every place down just like it. I'm eyeballing the troubled teen industry here big time on that one. Because if you think the JRC is the only school of its kind, yeah, I might have to red pill you on that, because I've got introduced to a whole industry, a whole ass industry, not just to torture people like me, but to just literally torture anybody that society has deemed undesirable. But yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Alright, in the description box, folks, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It is written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by Autistics for Autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's quote-unquote behavioral modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they do not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused, so folks, you know the drill. Please read that article and don't forget to share it on all your social media. We also got linked in their NeuroClastic's public statement in regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding, folks, in case the JRC actually has the balls to see through with their threat. We got the pertinent links to the Agape boarding school situation as well. Agape boarding school is a Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has and pending over 21 civil lawsuits, claims, and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated with the hard evidence gathered by the Missouri Department of Social Services that include the following: sodomy, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, starvation, and that's just for starters. You have one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another a doctor still on the premises with full access to the boys, on multiple substantiated claims and allegations of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. You got an attorney general, brand spanking new one, who still, to this point, has not briefed anyone in regards to the Agape boarding school case, and you got a governor hyped up on a power trip from hell. I live in GOP hillbilly hell. Send help. Please read all of those articles. Don't forget to share and sign the change.org Shut Agape Boarding School Down petition. We got the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the behavioral sheet of Jennifer Masumba over shockable offenses, a clip out of the several-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please go ahead and use your headphones, all right? All right, folks. This channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and talk about dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger, parental supervision is obviously advised. Now, I'm going to enjoy this small break from dealing with the insanity that is Dr. Matthew Israel. Let's not get into his special level of stupid, okay? I've dealt with it for like all week. I need a break, and I need to see somebody sane write something. So let's get to it, shall we? Daily costs. Autistic people don't need shock advices. We need vocal allies. Fucking preach it. Folks, we've been trying to get allies for years. We had a brief moment in 2012 where we had some people from major news actually back us and speak. It lasted all 5 minutes. Since the ban was overturned in 2020, we reached out to everyone and their goddamn mother to be able to get some actual coverage when it comes to the JRC. Nobody in major news media has said jack shit. The few places that did only covered it for about maybe 3 or 4 seconds. So, yeah, this is very pertinent here. But I digress. Let's move on. This is written by K. Meg Hartley, which we appreciate. And I approve of this shirt that said good intentions are not enough. Fucking preaching to the choir, my dude. Preaching to the damn choir. Okay, so update. Hooray! The Omnibus bill with a provision that gives the FDA the right to ban contingent electric shocks used for behavior modification was passed. But the fight's not over. The new action team tweet at FDA device info and at US_FDA asking them to pass the rule banning the electric shock device without delay, stop the shock as soon as possible and as often as possible. Let's put on the pressure. Damn fucking straight, folks. When I say never let up the pressure on these bastards, I'm not kidding. Us as a community has watched these bastards literally get away with fucking murder. We need everyone and their brother on this, all right? This is an all hands on deck situation. We've got a golden opportunity here. We need to be pushing for a federal investigation into the atrocities committed at the JRC. We need this place. We don't just want this banned. We need the place closed down. We want them to have nowhere else to hide and run to because these bastards have proved time and again that money talks. And because of them, this is how we have places going on decades after they've managed to cause the death of 6 fucking people. But let's move on here. I'm going to read through here. There is a cool practice happening to autistic and otherwise disabled humans in Massachusetts that the UN has very literally deemed torture, attempting to use painful electric shock devices in order to control their behavior. By the way, that anyone who that has a red flag up for, it really fucking should, because basically this is conversion therapy for autistic people. Let's make them neurotypical. It's never going to happen, all right? I am so tired of people living in fantasy land, I can't even see straight. This week, Congress can stop this inhumane treatment by essentially re-including a ban in the end-of-year omnibus bill. But we need allies to put pressure on them now. And even though they've put it in there, they still need the pressure, folks. So let's go through this. There's no excuse for this kind of treatment, but theirs is a claiming to prevent aggressive and or self-injurious behavior, which has been found factually inaccurate and just makes no damn sense in the first place. Here's the full scoop. Being autistic means a lot of things, a whole spectrum even. One thing that most autists have in common is that our differently wired brains can get overwhelmed by stimuli typical brains handle just fine. It's intensely unpleasant. For me, it's akin to being strapped too tightly to a rickety roller coaster I really don't want to be on while a bomb continuously explodes in my brain. That's very accurate. I used to describe it as being rubbed all over roughly with sandpaper while somebody's crashing cymbals over my head. So when that neurological overwhelm happens, that's naturally a breaking point. How does that breaking point manifest? For crying out loud. I hate these ads. I really do. How's that breaking point? Oh, for fuck's sake. Hold on, people. We're going to get back to where we were. Okay. Technical difficulties. As that breaking point manifests will look different in different autists, but for some of us, that overwhelm can lead to aggressive and or self-injurious behavior. I am one. I was when I was younger, very much so, I might add. After decades of dealing with sporadic but uncontrollable episodes, I've devised ways to help avoid them. So have I. So have many of us who've had to adapt to survive. Now when I feel that warning of an oncoming meltdown, which for me used to usually end in self-harm, I know I need to get away from any surrounding people with as little interaction as possible. Make the lighting soothing, take meds, put on loopy hip-hop. It's metal for me, folks. Metal all day, every fucking day. Just saying. Now, we're all different. Anyways, back to where I was. I keep losing my spot. I wish people would make their paragraphs run so damn long. Get some therapy, dog love. Kitties. Doggies. Give me a gerbil. Find out what happens. Call my safe people. Cry it out. And floor equals good. If I still feel that overwhelming urge to tear at my skin, I try to discharge and interrupt the painfully overwhelming energy by scratching the side of my rough couch. It can take it, and or screaming into pillows. I'm a pillow screamer, folks, from way back. Why am I telling you all of this? Oh, and I used to have, there was like a full, like body-sized punching bag that I used to punch and kick the shit out of. It was great. Why am I telling you all this? Because something that sure fucking isn't listed is someone remotely shocking my body without my consent. But that's exactly what's happening at the Judge Rotenberg Center in Canton, Massachusetts, where they claim to prevent unwanted behaviors like the aforementioned self-harm in people with developmental disabilities, emotion disorders, and autistic-like behaviors by essentially creating the harm themselves. Thank you! It makes no coherent sense with anybody who has two brain cells to rub together. You're going to stop me from harming myself by harming me? Doesn't work, does it? They use an extreme form of aversive therapy via a device called the Graduated Electronic Decelerator, GED, which sends strong electric shocks throughout their bodies when they exhibit unwanted behavior, like autistic meltdowns and the overwhelmed behaviors that precede them. To give you an idea of just how strong the shocks are, JRC's strongest device, the GED-4, a type of electric stimulation device, ESD, that isn't approved by the FDA, shocks patients at 90 MA. Oh, they've gone up. They've fucking gone up from 45? What the fuck? 9 times higher than a cattle prod, 10 MA, and a whooping 22.5 times stronger than the electric fence, 4MA. In 2013, the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture condemned the practice, saying it violates the UN Convention Against Torture and other international standards. It is very officially internationally declared torture, yet it still continues in the United States. The fight to get these devices banned in the U.S. has been going on for decades. Knowing online has stopped the shock. But so far, lawmakers haven't made it happen. In recent developments, the FDA tried to ban the ESDs at large in 2020, stating, "The FDA has determined that these devices present an unreasonable and substantial risk of illness or injury, specifying ESDs present a number of psychological risks, including depression, PTSD, anxiety, fear, panic, substitution of other negative behaviors, worsening of underlying symptoms, and learned helplessness. And the devices present the physical risks of pain, skin burns, and tissue damage." Also stating ESDs have been associated with additional risks such as suicidality, chronic stress, acute stress disorder, neuropathy, withdrawal, nightmares, flashbacks of panic and rage, hypervigilance, insensitivity to fatigue or pain, changes in sleep patterns, loss of interest, difficulty concentrating, and injuries from falling. So decidedly it's not preventing harm. Thank you. Finally, some sane people to read, right? And guess what? Taxpayers are paying for all of this increased danger and harm, and it's not cheap. According to the tax documents in 2020, the Judge Rotenberg Center was paid $84,108,326 in grants. God! And funding by our government. Yeah, we're funding this, folks. Fucking great, isn't it? This is what I'm talking about here. That's money that is not going towards actually figuring out how to better help autists successfully find our place in society, and we're really struggling. ASAN is asking the autistic and disability allies to call your members of Congress and ask them to include the ban on electric shock torture in the omnibus bill. ASAN's provided a script for the call, a proxy system for those unable to use the phone due to disability. So easy, so quick. And yes, they did, folks. We've all been utilizing them. I've been utilizing them. And I barely have time to, scratch my head on majority of most days, right? We managed to get it in the omnibus bill. There's still hell of a fight ahead because these are slippery, corrupt, rich bastards. Just saying. Again, the only defense the Judge Rotenberg Center has for being the only place still using this inhumane device is claiming the GED, a type of ESD, helps prevent aforedescribed self-injurious behavior, SIB, as well as aggression, AG. And that they have the most difficult cases in that regard, which I have proven statistically is complete, utter garbage. But I'm going to do it again just for those who've never come by this channel. It is statistically false that this school has the worst in the entire country. There are literally millions of autistics throughout the entirety of our country. When I was in the field, folks, I covered 25% of my state, 25%. And I'm out here in Missouri. That's a pretty large section of our state. Okay? To try to sit there and tell me that I've never encountered anyone ever before that was as severe as these kids at this school is complete bullshit. The math doesn't work. Or as other people would say, the math isn't mathing. Know what I'm saying? But yeah, I just wanted to put that in there because it's such a bunch of bullshit. However, the FDA's 2020 inspection found otherwise. 25,000 is a reliable conservative estimate for the number of the more extreme cases of SIB and AB in the United States. We have no evidence establishing that of those JRC receives the most extreme or refractory cases. Thank you! Hallelujah, someone has a brain. Additionally, stating JRC has not established that its residents on whom ESDs are used are refractory to other treatments, and evidence shows that the state-of-art alternatives have generally been successful even for the most difficult cases. So basically all that shit Dr. Israel was saying, but the studies don't work. What have I been telling you, folks? What have I been telling you? The data is in on these other programs, okay? They're incorrect. It makes no sense. They have no excuse. You'd think that'd be it. Medieval treatment over, but not in our legal system. Efforts by the JRC lobbyists resulted in the ban getting struck down on technical grounds in the July of 2021. The new disheartening developments this fall. On September the 28th, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, a valued resource in the autistic community, reported the bipartisan effort to stop the shock was included in the House version of the FDA-SLA Act. It was added to the Senate bill following a committee hearing. But yesterday, congressional leadership announced the final bill would be a clean bill that drops many important provisions, including the ban. Fortunately, there's another chance this month, the end of the Euro-Nimbus bill, and you can help. So we're going to go over this because it's still pertinent. Even though we've got it in the Omnibus bill, there's obviously very much more work to be done. In fact, I would argue even more work to be done, because if you think that the JRC's lobbyists aren't in hyperdrive right now, I got a river in Egypt I can sell you. ASAN is asking autistic and disability allies to call your members of Congress and ask them to include a ban on the electric shock torture in the Omnibus bill. Now, folks, we're putting pressure on the FDA. I'm going to be putting pressure on, federal investigators to bring this place down for good and to have the people who have committed, basically, it could almost be considered war crimes, what they do to those kids. Have them actually held accountable by the court of law and have them finally answer for the 6 deaths on their hands. That's just me. So ASAN, they're telling you that we need you to call your senators. So I'm going to read through it, even though it's kind of mute at this point. Please call as soon as possible, and once you've engaged, please encourage others to do as well by sharing advocacy info using Stop the Shock. I've truly only touched on the harms caused by the Judge Rotenberg Center. It's terrifying that this is legal in my country and horrific that they continue to stay in business, let alone receive millions in government funding. They need to be completely shut down. It's criminal that it hasn't happened already, but the very least the government can do is re-include that ban on the use of electric shock for behavior modification in the Omnibus bill. Autistic people don't need shock aversives. We need vocal allies. Thank you for supporting us by calling your Congress members today to demand these devices are banned. Okay. So, why did I read this after we've already got it passed in the Omnibus bill? Because I'm going to hit you with a little bit of reality here. I'm a nihilist for a reason, folks. We've seen this song and dance before. We've taken many steps forward. We even got the ban pushed through, only to have the fucking court system shit on us. And basically the JRC lobbyists run interference and basically try to destroy and discredit everything that we do. And they've got millions of dollars at their disposal to be able to do so, folks. These people hobnob with some of the most powerful, rich men in the country, bar none, okay? This school uses us as an endless stream of funds. That's $280,000 a head every single year. And that's just 2009 numbers. It has probably gone up since then. These slippery bastards have managed to slip out of every single noose that has ever come against them. This includes the 2012 fight with Andre McCollin's mother, Cheryl McCollins. They've managed to slip out of every net, folks. Every net. They need to be closed down. There is no other answer. As long as they sit there in existence, they are a threat to every single autistic and disabled person out there. That's just a fact. I'm not trying to depress you. I'm trying to be real here. Okay? Even if they get the devices banned and the JRC can't fight it this time, they still engage with the bizarre behavioral rehearsal lessons, the food starvation, or as they call it, food contingency, the sleep deprivation, and their idiotic educational center that does in actual no way prepare these kids for life outside of the center. As long as they are around, as long as they're receiving federal funding in the millions every single year, as long as they're making $280,000 a head, they remain a threat. And they are not above fighting dirty to continue to keep their cash stream coming through by means of us. Okay? We got to go further. We've got to do more. We've got to get this place closed down because that is the only answer that I see that we have to protect another generation of disabled people from being tortured. I'm going to close on that. We don't get very many reviews on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.